This podcast was made possible by the Office of Communications for the Catholic Diocese of Arlington, which is funded in part by the Bishop's Lenten Appeal and the Catholic Communication Campaign. We thank all who support these critical appeals and the ministries they fund. You're listening to Searching for More, a podcast of the Diocese of Arlington. On this episode, Bonnie Engstrom, Catholic blogger and mother of 8, shares how becoming a pivotal player in Archbishop Fulton Sheen's cause for canonization infused her seemingly ordinary life with an amazing story. Hear more about the incredible miracle that brought her son back to life and about her first-hand experience of the process for submitting a miracle to the Vatican. This episode's host is Bridget O'Boyle, Digital and Social Media Coordinator for the Diocese.
And Bonnie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure.
So Bonnie, you wear many hats. You're a blogger, you're a writer for Blessed Is She. You've written a book that's available for pre-order right now.
Correct, yeah.
61 Minutes to a Miracle. And you're speaking across the country and also a mother to almost 8.
To 8. My youngest is 3 months old today.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you ever sleep? How much coffee do you drink?
I have about 1 to 2 cups a day. And
my gosh.
My baby is a really good sleeper. Praise God.
Praise God.
I think it's just one of the ways that I have been, I think when we are open to life and we are generous with our yes to God, He outdoes us in His generosity time and time and time again. And
Amen.
So this has been one of the ways.
I'm a new mom, so it's inspiring to see.
Oh, congratulations. How old is yours?
You. So I have a 6-month-old and an almost 2-year-old. So
wonderful.
almost Irish twins. So we get the busyness.
Yeah.
To go back even before your son James's birth, that really ended in being this miracle that leads us to the story of Fulton Sheen. What was your devotion to Fulton Sheen, like before James was even a part of the family?
Sure. So really it wasn't until I was pregnant with James that I had a devotion to Fulton Sheen.
Okay.
I encountered him online. I'd never read any of his books. My husband and I never had, we'd never really heard him preach we'd seen pictures of him, but that was about it. But when I was in my second trimester with James, we started watching videos of him online, old episodes of his television show and different things that are available. And that was really the beginning. We were really taken in by the truth that he was preaching and how relevant the things that he was saying, 50 years ago were to us, in 2010. So that was kind of the beginning. And then I think the first book of his that I read was Treasure in Clay, and that's his autobiography. Excuse me. And it was just such a wonderful introduction to him. I don't know if you've read it, but he tells just great stories about his childhood and when he was at university, and then just throughout his life as a priest and a bishop. And that was really how I feel like I was especially endeared to him after reading that book.
Got it. So the devotion started, the interest started. Was it largely because he was this incredible preacher that had also this love for media and new evangelization? Because you have a pretty significant following, I would say, with your writing and on social media. Was that just something that spoke to you in that way?
I think so. I know I was definitely drawn to that aspect of how creative he was in using every means of media available to spread the gospel.
Exactly.
I thought that was really great. He had a radio show, a television show. He wrote pamphlets and books, and he traveled the world. And that was really inspiring. But even more than that, I just liked that he was a guy from Central Illinois.
Right.
I just felt like, when in the Bible Nathaniel says about Jesus, can anything good come out of Nazareth? That's kind of like people have that attitude about flyover country, you know?
Wow, yeah.
And I just liked that he was just a Midwestern boy raised on a farm,
I love
and,
it.
you know, just had the warmth and the hardworking attitude that I think Midwestern people are known for, and
Mhm.
I definitely related to that.
That's beautiful. So what has this been like, I guess, like for your family, the past couple weeks? Has it been a couple weeks since they announced it, or
Oh my goodness.
what
Yes,
is
it was July 5th, I think, was when
okay.
the Pope approved the miracle, but it was July 6th when we found out, just because of, other side of the world and everything.
Right, right.
um, but yeah, it's just been thrilling. We've had a lot of opportunities to share James's story, and every time we share James's story, people come and tell us, through emails, or if I'm speaking, they'll come up to me later and tell us ways that Fulton Sheen has interceded in their life, or they'll tell us about someone who needs Fulton Sheen's prayers. And that's just been so awesome to see
Wow.
how the message is inspiring other people, and how Fulton Sheen's witness is inspiring other people. And kind of together as a church, we are leaning in towards Christ even more.
Mhm.
So that's just been really beautiful. It's also really surreal.
I can imagine. Um, so when did you start this process? Like, what is the process like to submit a miracle? And what can you walk us through the timeline? Like, when was the moment, after everything happened? If you could go back and tell that story briefly, and then just kind of walk us through when was the like light bulb moment? Like, I need to submit what happened.
Sure. So I never had that light bulb moment of I need to submit what happened. It was my mom who encouraged me to do it.
Okay.
And I basically did it just to, obey my mother, to keep the commandment, and to have her stop bothering me about it, But she was really insistent, and that was obviously the Holy Spirit.
Wow.
And God bless her for being persistent, But what happened was, when James was in the NICU,
Mm-hmm.
in the very beginning of his life, he had an MRI that showed he had pretty substantial brain damage.
Wow.
And when he was 3 months, I believe, sometimes I'm bad with my timeline, but I believe he was 3 months old, we had a follow-up MRI.
Mm-hmm.
And that MRI showed that his brain was perfectly normal.
Wow.
And so when we got that result, my mom said, Bonnie, Fulton Sheen got us this miracle, and you need to tell the Sheen Foundation about it, because they're going to want to know. And so, like I said, she persisted, and I finally called them and told them. And I just thought, I didn't think they were going to do anything with it. I know that when you're doing a cause for canonization, you need to kind of gather proof that people are, they believe that the person is in heaven, and they believe that they will pray for them, and,
Mm-hmm.
kind of evidence that people are devoted to the potential saint, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought this would just be like another little footnote in a long list of miracles that people had attributed to him, but
Got it.
but that would be it.
You never thought it would be the miracle.
Yes, exactly. But when the postulator in Rome was told the story, he said, we need to do an investigation into this, because it's unlike anything that he'd ever seen before, and he's
Wow.
worked on hundreds of causes, I'm pretty sure. So
Wow.
so that was it.
And so it was
the
really
follow-up MRI.
so it was the follow-up MRI, but then like going back to the birth story, that was kind of the first miracle, was that your son came out as stillborn, and he did not have a pulse for 61 minutes. Is that?
That's correct. We did not know that James had a knot in his umbilical cord.
Okay.
And so when he was being born, the knot tightened, and it tightened so much that it cut off his oxygen supply, so that he was a stillborn, essentially. And he was born at home, and so we were at home for about 20 minutes where he had no pulse.
Oh.
And then in the ambulance, it was about another 20 minutes, and he was hooked up to a heart monitor and continued to have no pulse. And then they got to the emergency room, and it was about another 20 minutes, and continued to not have any kind of a pulse on the heart monitor. And, you know, in the ambulance and in the emergency department, they were doing everything they could to save his life, to restart his heart, you know, just to make something happen. And nothing worked. Nothing worked. So they eventually stopped working on James after 61 minutes to call time of death. And that was when his heart started to beat again.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So was it, the doctor said we are about to call time of death. And were you with your husband at the time, or was it just him?
So I was not. I was taken in a different ambulance to the maternity floor of the hospital so that they could continue to monitor me. But my husband was standing in the hallway. The emergency room was so full of people and equipment and everything that he stepped out into the hallway to basically so that he was out of everyone's way so that they could, you know, do their job. But yeah, he was in the hallway praying.
Wow.
And when they came out, they said, you know, he's alive, but that's all that they said.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Travis knew, my husband's name is Travis, but he just knew that what they were saying is he's alive, but he's not going to be for long.
Right. And did he call you and then share that?
So he came upstairs. Well, once James was stabilized in the emergency room, he was taken to the NICU at the hospital. And once James was in the NICU, then Travis came to maternity to get me and bring me down to the NICU.
Okay. Wow. And I can't imagine that feeling. I mean, you probably went from like not despair, but just like utter shock, sadness, all the emotions of carrying a child for 9 months, and then just realizing that he was no longer here. And then all of a sudden he has a pulse again. Like how was that? I mean, I know it was a little bit ago because it was your third, but do you remember that vividly? Is it kind of like this, I guess, mix of emotions?
So honestly, I was in a state of shock.
Right.
And it was almost like my emotions were all paralyzed. And, yeah, I mean, people were talking to me and I processed some of what was being said, but most of it I did not process. You know, like I didn't understand that everyone there expected James to die again very soon.
Right.
I just didn't understand that. And people were even saying things and doing things that I should have clued into that, but I just didn't. I just didn't grasp it. So I think I just, you know, and my husband, he believed, like his faith did not waver. And so when he came and got me, he said, James is alive and he's going to be okay.
Oh,
and
that's
I just
beautiful.
thought, okay.
I believe you.
and I could tell that other people in the room, the hospital chaplain, the nurses, you know, I could tell that they were not comfortable with what was just said. But again, I couldn't really process things and make sense of the situation. So I just believed my husband because I was like, well, obviously that's what he was told and no one's correcting him. And, you know, so
right.
Yeah.
Well, wow. I feel like as a mom myself, I can only imagine, like I've had like not even really a glimpse of an experience like that. But even in the hard times or hard moments of motherhood, like my prayers, I feel like have been stronger than honestly I've ever prayed in my life. So I can only imagine in those moments, like those prayers being lifted up to heaven that were heard, were just probably so strong and probably so, I mean, probably you were probably tunnel vision in prayer, I'm assuming, in those moments.
That's a good way to say it. And I know for myself, the prayer that I most distinctly remember is just saying Fulton Sheen's name. Fulton Sheen, Fulton Sheen, Fulton Sheen. And just believing that he was going to pray for me, you know. I had no words. Like I said, I couldn't process, but I knew that he could do all of those things.
Right.
And so it was just kind of my way of turning it all over to him. But I like that. It was like a tunnel vision.
And you all had planned to name James's middle name was always planned to be Fulton.
Yes. Yeah. We knew from the, that second trimester when we were watching his videos online, we knew we were going to name our son James Fulton and put him under Fulton Sheen's patronage.
Oh, that's too cool. Well, so you submitted the miracle, and did you submit it to the Congregation for Causes of Saints? Is that how it works?
So we gave all of the medical history, the medical records. There was a bunch of people who came in as witnesses and gave their testimony.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of that was given to the Sheen Foundation, and then the Sheen Foundation submitted it to the Roman postulator, who compiled it and wrote what is called a positio, which is like a position paper that argues that a miracle happened, and it happened through the intercession of Fulton Sheen. And so as soon as Fulton Sheen was declared venerable, which was in 2012, June of 2012, the very next day, the postulator submitted it to the Congregation for the Causes of Saints.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's how that worked.
And so what was it like, when did you receive the phone call that your family's miracle was accepted and that it was going to be used for beatification?
I didn't get a phone call.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I didn't.
I'm imagining you're like doing the laundry or playing with the kids, and then all of a sudden you get this phone call.
No, and I got like when the medical and theological advisors to the Congregation for the Causes of Saints, when they approved the miracle years ago in 2014, I did get phone calls. And like one time I was getting the kids ready for school. One time I was shopping at Walmart. Like it was just, very average, basic things. But when the Pope approved the miracle, I was asleep, and so I think I got an email at 5 a.m.
Okay.
And I didn't wake up until like 6:30. And I think maybe they just didn't want to wake me up, because they're like, she's a mom with a baby, 8 kids,
right.
We'll let her sleep.
Right.
But what did wake me up was a friend of mine in Texas tagged me on social media, and it made my phone vibrate.
Don't you just love social media? The
Oh,
immediacy.
Yeah. I mean, I love the story. It makes me laugh. I just think that's so I was not the first person to know.
Okay. You found out through a friend on social media.
Yeah, yes, who tagged me in a Catholic News Agency article. So a lot of people already knew before me.
That is so wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, so you found it out, and was it just like, were you shocked? Was it kind of the process before leading up? You kind of saw it coming, or was this really like Christmas morning? Oh my goodness, this is happening.
Yeah, it was Christmas morning, and maybe that's
Wow.
really naive of me, but I just always, and Travis was like, Bonnie, how did you not know this was going to happen? Like, we've been waiting for this for a long time, but I just always assumed, well, the Pope might not approve it. Like,
Right.
And so I was just kind of prepared for either outcome, I guess. So I'm really glad that he did approve it, because this is the much more exciting outcome.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it was just crazy. I mean, the fact that somewhere in a room in the Vatican, a cardinal from the Congregation for the Causes of Saints had a conversation with Pope Francis about our family and our son and the miracle that Jesus worked for us through the intercession of Fulton Sheen.
That is wild.
Is mind-blowing. I know. There are billions of Catholics in the world. And, I've never met a pope or anything like that. That's really crazy to me.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it must be wild to go from very ordinary life kind of to this whirlwind of, your family is playing this critical role in the story of this, blessed to beatified to hopefully canonized saint. I guess, how does that feel for the whole family? How has that been?
So really the only thing that has been different so far is I have been doing more interviews.
Right, which I couldn't even believe we got you. I'm like, I'm going to try to get Bonnie. I'm going to message her on social media as I do best and see if I can get her.
Yeah, and we are happy to do it. Like, this is not a story to us. This is not a story about our family. This is a story about God and what God has done.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a joy and an honor to share that.
Mm-hmm.
When God has done something mighty in your life,
Mm-hmm.
you want to tell people about it. And so, so we just hire a babysitter and I, do a phone interview or whatever. But it's worth it to us because we really believe that sainthood and all of it, a life lived for the glory of God is for the glory of God. All of this is to tell people about Jesus Christ and how much he loves us and how much he cares about us and how, the saints are on our side and they are our friends and praying for us and leading us closer to God. So we are still just an ordinary family with, I'm potty training one kid this week, and right now the kids are all playing outside, and my husband's at work right now, and we'll have chicken nuggets and fruit for lunch. Like, we are just like every other family.
That's beautiful, though.
And
I think that's what's so beautiful
gift
about
that
it.
we have is a total gift. We are not worthy of it in any way, and it was given to us for the glory of God. So.
That's beautiful. So Bonnie, you have 8 kids and they are probably, how has it been like with all of them and kind of the spotlight on James in a little bit? Have they just been wrapped up in it? Do they love it? Are they like, where's my saint? Like, what has that been like with all of the kids kind of knowing the narrative and the story for so long? Are they just so excited about it?
So, first, I want to say all of my kids know they're saints. Like, all of my kids have been put under the patronage of saints. And we pray like a family litany. And so they know who their saints are. So I don't think they feel left out at all. They know who's got their back,
Of course.
Yeah. But, and actually, I think James does not like the spotlight. He doesn't want people to talk about him. It's embarrassing to him. And the other kids are like, I'm really glad that they're talking about James and not me. So we really try to, Travis and I really try to keep them out of the spotlight as much as possible. We have some family pictures that we share so that it's not just about James. It's not the spotlight just on him. But yeah, and I think we have really good friends and family who do a good job of taking care of us, too, so that we're kind of all just shifting the focus back on God together.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think with big families too, like I'm one of 7 kids. And so I think even miracle or no miracle, I think sometimes it's making that time, that special time. And we always had a special day with our parents. That was our thing. We each got a special day. So yeah, I was just curious to think like they must just band together and like love this story. And I think for a child, it must be really inspiring to actually see like the communion of saints working in real time. I grew up hearing about the saints, but a miracle, it wasn't like, everyday miracles happen around us all the time. I believe that. But to hear something like this, I feel like must really change a family. So I'm sure it'll be for years to come such an amazing thing to share together as a family.
I hope so. It's kind of a normal part of our everyday life. But mixed with that, we do try to always be grateful for it.
Do you have a favorite quote by Fulton Sheen?
He has said so many like killer lines,
Exactly.
Oh man. But there's the one thing that I learned from him that is just so, it just revolutionized how I view the Holy Family, is in The World's First Love, which is basically a book about Mary. He talks about St. Joseph, and he talks about how St. Joseph would not have been an old man, but he would have been a young man, an athletic man, strong and handsome and in the prime of his life. And the fact that he was all of those things made his yes to God even more powerful. It wasn't that St. Joseph was old and just kind of like said, "Yes, God, I'll give you the remainder of my years."
Wow.
But he was
Vital and
yes, he was sacrificing everything for God to protect Mary and to raise Jesus Christ. And that was just really eye-opening for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it helped me to, because I've always been, I never really understood or appreciated the marriage between Mary and Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
But because I didn't understand a young woman and, almost a girl and an old man, like that was just weird. So to have, Fulton Sheen say she was 16, he was 20, they were definitely attracted to each other,
And you're just like, thank you, Fulton.
Yes,
like that's such a beautiful
really.
picture. Exactly. And he says so many great things about marriage too. So that makes me want to read that book because even the quotes about 3 to get married, I think it's such a beautiful visual of, Christ at the center and then the husband and wife. But just to keep that image fresh in your mind of it's not just about you two. There's really that third element. And so he has so much wisdom to share. And I'm so happy that this is all happening because what a great model and what a great saint. So thank you, Bonnie, for saying yes to your mother way back when she told you to submit. Because it's inspiring to see what happens when you follow the Holy Spirit. When he leads you and where he will lead you. So thank you so much, Bonnie. Is there anything you want to share with our listeners where they can find you, where they can follow you?
Yeah, I would love to see you guys. If you are on Instagram, my handle is @BonnieEngstrom, and my website is bonnieengstrom.net, so you can find me in either of those places. I'm barely on Twitter. I'm on Facebook a lot. Still Bonnie Engstrom. And then as you mentioned, I have the book, 61 Minutes to a Miracle, and that has basically, all the details. I go into a lot more detail about the miracle and the story, and that's coming out in September with our Sunday Visitor.
Awesome. So pre-order Bonnie's book, 61 Minutes to a Miracle. Thank you so much, Bonnie, for being with us.
Thank you. It was a joy.
Thank you for listening to Searching for More. If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a review on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher. Also, make sure you follow the Diocese and the Arlington Catholic Herald on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And subscribe to our YouTube channels for regular videos that will inspire, educate, and inform you about the Catholic faith and our diocesan community.